that this thing can seem like a panacea, some
Sure.
cure-all for.
Oh, yeah.
And there's the issue of control. Amy mentioned that wanting to feel the need to be in control, and most of these people figure out very quickly this is one area of their life they definitely have control over.
Yeah.
You know, it may not be healthy, but they have control over it.
You can
know.
control what you put in your mouth.
Sure.
Did you only go to counseling, or what else was there?
I participated in a group counseling through the JMU Counseling Center, and then I also did one-on-one therapy with
Right, you mentioned that.
with a
But
counselor.
it was just a lot of therapy. There's no medicinal channels involved in
Well, with
curing bulimia.
some eating disorders, there's a link to depression. What they've found is that some people who have had eating disorders have benefited from antidepressant medications.
Such as, what is it?
Well, Elavil or some of the antidepressant medications.
Lithium?
Because, yeah.
Okay.
Because for some there's a link, or there is depression involved.
There is almost a manic side
Well,
to it?
more of a depressive side.
A
Yeah.
depressive side, right.
Sure. Yeah.
It's very interesting to learn about these things, and I'd heard that it was indeed, almost a disease,
It is a
It is a
disease.
disease.
But
Like
it is-
alcoholism, it's an addiction.
and it is
Yeah.
curable.
Psychological.
Sure.
Is she considered like an alcoholic, or is she?
It's more, sure.
Is she considered like an alcoholic, or is she?
It's more of a
one those-
psychological addiction. Yeah.
But is it one of those things that she will be recovering from for the rest of her life?
Mhm.
And you'll always have to be careful. Is that it?
Mhm.
It gets easier with time, but it's always something that I'm going to have to deal with. It won't go away.
What is one thing that you'd like to say to a girl out there now who may have started doing what you started doing a couple of years ago?
To seek help, get educated about it. There's a lot of groups on campus, the JMU Counseling Center, Health Center. We just sponsored an educational series on eating disorders that lasted 10 weeks. There's a lot of information out there, and that they're not alone. It's just affecting so many people now.
Okay. Dr. Whetstone, when a patient or a victim, I might say, enters your clinic or gives you a call on the telephone, what do you do with them? How do you coax them, or how do you start them off with the counseling?
Well, just encouraging them to get involved in the therapy as a first step is important. You know, getting there the first time is the hardest
That's
part.
the hardest.
Yeah. Do they come on their own recognizance, or do they actually have to be pushed or prodded by a family member?
Typically, they come on their own. I forgot to mention that anorexia oftentimes has its onset around puberty, you know, much younger than college age. And for some bulimics, too, it's high school, affiliated with a rejection or a parent's divorce or something. So in those kind of cases, oftentimes the family brings them. Or it could be a boyfriend or a parent, something like that.
Well,
In college students, it's oftentimes a roommate.
it is a roommate. That's what I wanted to ask you. In your case, was it simply the psychological side of it, or do a lot of people come only after they're having health problems from bulimia? Or is it too late at that point?
With bulimia, it's easier to disguise because your weight, you don't drop the weight, you usually fluctuate your weight within 10 pounds plus or minus.
You're eating everything you want to, but okay.
Right. With anorexia, it's something you can physically see.
You're emaciated.
Yeah, you're emaciated. With bulimia, there are symptoms: red, swollen eyes, swollen salivary glands, getting a lot of cavities in your teeth. Esophageal tears will cause you to vomit blood, things like that.
Did you suffer from any of those?
I was actively bulimic for 8 months, so I hadn't started into any of those symptoms. I had started some cardiac arrhythmias from using syrup of ipecac, though.
Okay. Thank you for joining us. Please stay tuned, and we'll wrap this discussion up in just one moment.
Do you think there's more awareness as to eating disorders?
I think there's more awareness, but I think just as many people, if not more, have them because there's so much more pressure with models and diet fads and everything to be thin, for girls to be thin. I think that there's still a really big problem.
I think it's definitely more specific with females. They're more weight conscious than males are as a whole.
What you got to do with something like that is try and boost their confidence. People who have a problem or have a problem with their self-esteem and self-respect, and the only way you can to maybe perhaps change that problem is to put a little confidence in them. about their appearance and about their personality.
Art Association.
Welcome back, and we will be concluding our discussion on eating disorders right now. I'd like to ask, in our discussion during the commercial, we talked about some other forms of bulimia and anorexia, or bulimia particularly. Could you go ahead and elaborate?
Well, just so we don't support people's denial who are purging or using laxatives, there are other forms of bulimia too. Some bulimics just binge and they don't purge at all. And other bulimics will binge and then compulsively exercise. And we're talking about hours each day to burn off calories, which can be as damaging to the body as the purging can be for some people. So I wanted to make that point there.
And they use laxatives too.
Some people would use laxatives, some people would induce vomiting, and some wouldn't do either one. They would just compulsively exercise. And then there's some bulimics that just binge and don't do any of those.
And there was Carolyn Adams Miller last night was speaking of the fact a 35-hour-a-week exerciser, a former Miss Maryland, right?
Sure. Right.
And
Yeah.
that alone gets to be dangerous.
Yeah,
I can
sure.
Yeah,
imagine.
I think Kathy Rigby, the gymnast, the Olympic gymnast, was
She was
very much
bulimic.
in that area. Yeah.
Where are you located if someone would like to come and get help?
356 South Main Street. They need to call for an appointment.
And what's your phone
And my
number?
number's in the phone book.
Okay.
Richard Whetstone listed
Great.
it.
Thank you for being on the show
Sure,
today.
thank you.
Could you briefly talk about your honors project to close the show?
Sure. I started an honors project. It's the educational series on eating disorders that I mentioned earlier, because I felt that there was a need for increased awareness and education at JMU about eating disorders. So we sponsored 5 lecture series, and the last one was Caroline Adams Miller. It was sponsored by the Department of Nursing and the JMU Health Center.
Okay. And the support group at JMU, when does it meet? Does it meet at a regular
support group
time?
on Monday nights at 7:30 at St. Stephen's Church. So this is especially good if you're not sure you have a problem, but you want more information. This is a good place to start if you don't want to go to a therapist.
All righty.
That's the Episcopal Church on
Episcopal
Cantrell and
Church.
Main Street. Yeah.
I'm Stefan Fogelman, and join us next week for our live call-in show on stress. I've learned a lot today, and I hope you have too. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a good week.